talked in the introduction about the huge importance of the first few seconds of any encounter, because it's during this time that most of us, often unconsciously, form an impression of the other person. It's because of this that we want to devote this unit to just the first few seconds of the meeting. So what does this mean for us? Well, it means we must be very conscious of the initial impression which we make. Now, this sounds like a terrible cliche for me to say that the way you dress is important, but all the studies show that what you wear is very important. And yet, many people get it wrong, presumably because they just don't recognize the impact it has. So, what you wear will speak to the other person. But it doesn't automatically mean you have to be formally dressed at all times. It means you should be appropriately dressed. You need to conform to the expectations of the customer. So if the customer tends to dress formally, then so should you. If they're less formal, then you should follow. Similarly, you communicate a great deal by your non-verbal language, often referred to as body language. Body language refers to the messages you give out by the way you stand, the way you move, your gestures, facial expressions, and so on. And we give away far more about ourselves via body language than we ever do with words, because we can easily control the words we use, but we find it very difficult to control our body language. So if we're nervous, that nervous energy tends to come through in our body language. And the other person will sense our nerves, even though the words we use may not give it away. So again, you need to think about the things you communicate through your body language. Now, much of what we're talking about here is not new. In 1936, Dale Carnegie wrote his now famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Carnegie recognized that people tend to be more likely to want to do business with people they like. And so he identified 6 ways to help people like you. And I think they're well worth reviewing now, because they can all be used from the very start of the relationship and the meeting. We'll start with his point about smiling. Now, I know it sounds obvious, but most of us respond well to other people smiling. We tend to want to smile back, and this, of course, is a very positive way to start the meeting, with everyone smiling. Now, of course, if the meeting has been called to address a very serious issue, then you probably don't want to go in beaming, but nevertheless, you should still smile to acknowledge the other person, the other people. His second point was that we should be genuinely interested in others. We should ask questions and take an interest in the things which they're interested in. We ask questions and listen carefully to the answers, and when we talk, we should talk in terms of the other person's interests rather than our own. And by doing so, we make the other person feel more important. Not in a manipulative way, because we've taken a genuine interest. I think the key word here is genuine. There are lots of books which discuss clever sales techniques which border on the disingenuous or even manipulative, and I think they're frankly worthless, because most of us are pretty good most of the time at differentiating between the genuine person from the fake, the true response from the clever, somewhat manipulative technique. Closely related to taking an interest in other people is to remember and use the other person's name. Now, whether you use the person's first name or family name and title will depend on the situation and the culture and your relationship, but using their name is really important. So, 6 things to keep in mind from Dale Carnegie from the very start of the relationship. Smile. Remember that the other person's name is the most important sound. Become genuinely interested in other people. Be a good listener and encourage people to talk about themselves. And talk in terms of the other person's interest and make the other person feel important, but you've got to do it sincerely. So now I'll leave you to plan the first few seconds of your next meeting.